When you think of the name Merlin, what pops into your head? You probably picture a wise old wizard with a long white beard, right? King Arthur's mentor, maybe a little goofy. But what if I told you that the original story of Merlin, the one people told for centuries, was way, way darker? What if his amazing powers came from a place that was just pure evil? All right, let's get into the real story.
Yeah, you heard that right, because that's the real question at the heart of the original legend. See, the kindly old wizard we all know and love today, he's a pretty recent invention. The Merlin of medieval romance was actually born from this terrifying, demonic plan to unleash an agent of pure chaos on the world. So, to understand how we got from that to the Merlin we know today, we've got to go all the way back to the beginning.
Long before he was ever linked with King Arthur, Merlin's first appearance in literature was as a boy prophet. This is literally where his story begins, and it's so important for understanding how his legend was built up, layer by fascinating layer, over time.
Now this is where it gets really interesting, because this timeline shows you the two major building blocks. First, around 1135, a writer named Geoffrey of Monmouth introduces Merlin, but as a prophet. Then, more than 50 years later, another poet, Robert de Boron, comes along and adds this absolutely shocking, demonic origin story. And that version, it would define the character for hundreds of years. So let's start with that first one.
Geoffrey of Monmouth's book was called The Prophecies of Merlin, and in the Middle Ages, this thing was a smash hit. But it wasn't about casting spells or turning people into squirrels. No, Merlin's power was his sight, this incredible ability to deliver these really cryptic, symbolic prophecies about the future of Britain to the king. He was a seer, not a sorcerer. And this right here, this is his most famous prophecy. Merlin tells the king about a vision he had of two dragons fighting deep beneath the earth, a red dragon and a white one. He then explains that this is a vision for the future of the entire kingdom. The red dragon, he says, represents the native Britons, and the white dragon represents the invading Saxons. This story totally cemented him as this figure tied to the very soul of the land. But believe it or not, this is just the first layer of the story.
Okay, so now we get to the really wild part. About 50 years after that first book, the poet Robert de Boron takes this character of Merlin and gives him a jaw-droppingly dark backstory, one that was specifically designed to explain how and why he had such incredible otherworldly knowledge. And that was the whole point. Seriously, it was a cosmic conspiracy of the highest order. The forces of hell literally got together and decided to create their own version of a savior, an antichrist, born on Earth who would use his incredible powers to corrupt and destroy all of humanity from the inside out. So here's how the diabolical plan was supposed to work. An incubus, a specific type of demon, was sent to father a child with a pure, virtuous mortal woman. This child, Merlin, would be born half human, half demon. He would inherit all the demonic knowledge of the past and present, and he'd be able to see the future. His entire destiny was to be the ultimate deceiver. But the plan had one fatal flaw. Just as the forces of evil had a master plan, well, so did the forces of good. It turns out a single act of faith was about to completely derail this demonic plot and turn the would-be Antichrist into one of humanity's greatest champions. And here's the brilliant countermove. Merlin's mother, terrified of what she's given birth to, has him baptized immediately. That one simple act foils the entire demonic scheme. The baptism cleanses Merlin of his evil purpose, but, and this is the absolute key to the whole story, it doesn't take away his powers. He keeps the demonic knowledge of the past and the prophetic sight of the future, but now his own free will can direct those incredible powers towards serving God and, eventually, King Arthur. And what you get is this incredible walking paradox, a figure who is literally conceived by evil, born to be the Antichrist, who gets redeemed at the last second and becomes one of history's greatest heroes. Think about it. He's a man wielding the devil's own knowledge for the cause of good. For centuries, this deep, internal conflict was the very core of his character. So how in the world did we get from this complex, conflicted demon seed to the friendly, bumbling wizard we see in movies like Disney's The Sword and the Stone? Well, over time, the story just got simplified, and its darkest and, honestly, its most fascinating elements got left on the cutting room floor. This chart just lays out the difference so clearly. The medieval Merlin's origin is straight up demonic. The pop culture Merlin is just mysterious. The original's powers were all about knowledge and prophecy. Today, it's about flashy spells and turning things into other things. And his very nature has shifted from this deeply conflicted, redeemed soul to just a purely good-natured and often kind of quirky mentor. And we have to remember why this dark origin was so important back then. It wasn't just some throwaway detail, it was the entire engine of his character. It explained how he knew everything. It gave him this amazing inner conflict that made him so compelling. For the authors of the great medieval romances, this whole failed Antichrist story wasn't some ugly secret to hide. It was the entire point of Merlin.
So the next time you think of Merlin, maybe don't just picture the wise old wizard. Picture the walking paradox, a man born from a demonic plot, saved by a divine intervention, who used the knowledge of hell to help build a heavenly kingdom on earth. Which really leaves us with a fascinating question, doesn't it? Can a true hero actually be powered by darkness?